Welcome to our talk, the place where we could agree to disagree if we wanted to disagree. I have two guests today, and the topic is transition, consciousness, climate, and corona. The two guests are Golo Pilz from Rajasthan in India, he's currently in Germany, Robert Kramps in Den Haag in the Netherlands. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you said that. And I know that Golo is on the verge of picking up his visa, which is one reason why we decided to hold this art talk as quickly as possible. Thank you, Golo, for being the main inspiration for particularly the subtitle of our topic, Consciousness, Climate, and Corona. And thank you, Robert, for your very spontaneous agreement to join this. It's a bit of an experiment for me because I've never had two guests, let alone two people I hardly know, and certainly two guests who don't know each other. So it's a bit of an experiment. Thank you for joining. Golo, your visa is ready, you said, in half an hour or so. How much time will you have afterwards to pick it up?
Well, they told me I should come at 4 o'clock and I need 15 minutes to go there. So I think if I come a quarter past and I start here at 4 o'clock, it should be all right.
We'll see. Okay, we'll try and get it done in 45 minutes, a little bit longer than usual, but we are two people. And you will travel instantly to India?
Well, I'm trying. It's quite tempting to go next week. It's warm, and the people whom I call, they say Corona's over in India. So it's a good outlook to go to India right now.
I hope that's a lot of positive influence and not just wishful thinking. And of course, quite to the contrary, in Holland, you've got your skates ready. It's snowing, it's cold, isn't it?
Definitely. I think it's the coldest we've had in about 10 years. So the whole country is preparing. Yeah, snow in the streets, everything.
Okay, well, great. Let me introduce the two of you quickly to my viewers. Golo Pilz, as I mentioned, is normally living in India. He's currently in Germany. He is actually German. He was born in Germany. He has studied yoga since 1984. He lives at the Brahma Kumaris headquarters in Mount Abu, which is in the northwest, I believe. And Golo, it will be helpful to my viewers if you said something about the Brahma Kumaris in a moment. Then, since 1993, he has played a key role in establishing this organization as one of the major users of renewable energies in India. His sister-in-law says about him, Golo has been speaking to us already for 30 years about sustainability and spirituality. More recently, he has observed that inner values suddenly find resonance on a political level. That's your sister-in-law. Presently, Golo is directing the construction of India One, a solar thermal power plant. This is an innovative project jointly sponsored by the German and the Indian government. Golo advocates sustainable solutions through an ethical and value-based approach. He is an experienced presenter and participates regularly at the United Nations climate conferences. You can happily add to that and correct me later, Golo. First, Robert Kramps, he is in Den Haag. He was trained as a tax lawyer and worked for 15 years in consulting firms and also at the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs. This led to a personal transition whereby he found the courage to follow his heart, increasingly exploring the interaction and collaboration with others. which in fact may be very much at the root of what I just learned today. I will get back to that in a moment. Since 2007, he is self-employed. His passion is to create regenerative organizations and to support people in the accompanying development process. In a vision statement, it says, "We help to grow people and initiatives aimed at realizing social development and care for the earth." I think Golo might even subscribe to that vision statement too. His desire, Robert's desire, is to deepen his way of life, integrating nonviolent communication, systemic work, and meditation. That has brought him to Reiki in 2006. In 2015, he was initiated as a Reiki master. And I just learned today from a newsletter, you are, of course, the president now of the committee, or the board of directors, rather, of Reiki Home. And I will also later invite you to say a few words about Reiki Home. So, Golo, would you like to say a few words about Brahma Kumaris first, please?
Well, the Brahma Kumaris is a spiritual organization which was founded, I think, in 1937 by a gentleman who was a diamond merchant at that time, and his name was Brahma Baba. That's how the name of the organization came actually together. And he had visions of a new world, or a shift from the old world to a new world, which was accompanied by catastrophic events, of all sorts of wars and whatever. And at the same time, many women, that was in the Indian province of Sindh, which is now in Pakistan, many women got visions of him and inspirations to meet this gentleman. So, and that's how the name came, because Kumaris means the daughters. So these are the daughters of Brahma, and it's spelled Brahma Kumaris. And basically the Brahma Kumaris teaches Raja Yoga, which is an old form of Indian meditation where you concentrate on the third eye and you try to achieve union with the divine light and purity of the self in order to become a better person and create a very positive and powerful atmosphere around you, because we believe that the mind is above matter. Brahma Kumaris is also active in many, many fields. We have about 5,000 centers, meditation centers in India. And I think in 150 countries of the world, we also have centers. And we do a lot of programs, social programs. We go in prisons. We do environment conferences. We do tree plantation. All sorts of programs and activities. And since 10 years, we have an environmental initiative. And I have been at all the climate conferences where we try to bring in a bit the spiritual dimension in the Save the Planet idea. And we're also very active in the field of renewable energies. We have started 25 years ago, and now the project India One has been completed 1.5 years ago. It's a 1 megawatt solar power station. So we are very active in research and development. We are a recognized research center. So a lot of activities are going on, but foundation is a spiritual, is a daily spiritual, I would say, a lifestyle, you could say, including vegetarian and so on and so on.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you as a yogi here. I'm glad to have Robert as a Reiki master here, both committed also to life, its manifestations. As I've beautifully heard, I enjoyed the conversation we had last week, Golo, because you embody to me a man who is not only pursuing a spiritual path, but who is making every effort in the here and now to have an impact. And probably, Robert, you have listened to that, and you must have inside of you thought, oh, this resonates somewhat with the vision of the Reiki Home. And maybe you can say a few words about the Reiki Home, Robert?
Yeah, I will, and it definitely resonates. That's correct. I think for me, what I like, and at the same time, what the challenge is of a spiritual discipline is to put it on the ground and to bring it into daily life. I think And Reiki Home is much younger than the organization Golo is working for, but that's exactly what we're trying. It's our endeavor is to bring Reiki as a practice from the practice rooms and the personal treatments into society, and to see how we can benefit to society through the practice of Reiki, not necessarily putting your hands on a person, which is the basic treatment we do it within Reiki, but just being in society and helping to support the development of what I would call healthy communities.
Yes, and of course, what interests me very much, and where I have an affinity to your organization, is that you're an inclusive organization of an inclusive spirit, going beyond the boundaries of Reiki styles and accepting people with of a different tribe, let's say. So thank you very much. We got a little bit to know you, and since you've been spearheading the subtitle in particular, Golo, transition, of course, I mean, it stares at our face. Anyone who is reading newspaper, anyone who speaks in the family with other people can see that transition is something which is either happening or necessary. But you added the subtitle, Consciousness, Climate, and Corona. And I'm particularly curious to listen to you, the connection between the three of them. And some people would argue, okay, consciousness and climate, I get that, yes, but consciousness and climate, yes, I get that, but consciousness and corona, and more importantly, climate and corona, where's the connection there? Please fill us in on your thoughts, Golo.
Well, as a spiritual person, of course, we believe in the principle that mind is above matter. First, you visualize an idea, you think about it, you create it in your mind, and then you sort of create it in the physical reality. You first design a house in your mind, and then you build it, you know. So it first starts always with a higher principle, which is the mind. So the mind, or the consciousness, it sort of projects itself into the physical reality. And climate change is, of course, related very closely to the action of the last 150 years, where we burn fossil fuels, where the population has grown massively in numbers, and where we burned trees and we altered the composition of the atmosphere around us, the chemical composition. Now, the connection between corona and climate change is not so easy to grasp, but if you see that the loss of biodiversity is very closely connected to climate change, and that means we are changing the climate zones of the planet. Many species are forced to migrate, and thus there is much more close contact with human beings. In addition, I'm a vegetarian, of course, and unfortunately we keep a lot of wild animals in farms. Also domesticated animals in farms in very, very bad and poor and unhuman conditions, you can say. Mass production of meat. And since the last 100 years, we create breeding grounds for viruses to mutate and jump onto humans. So this is all interconnected. Through climate change, we are forced in more close contact with animals we have been in distant, especially with wild species. And we are going in regions and areas where we have not been before. Also because of the pressure of migration, because of the loss of biodiversity. Many people, they go in the jungles because it's the last resource where they can cut some trees or they get some livelihood out of it. So it's all interconnected, and it's all based on our actions, on our consciousness. And of course, small steps will not do remedy now. We are in a very grave situation. If you see the planetary boundaries, the capacity of the planet, how much of more human interference it can actually absorb. And we see with cosmetic changes, it will be not possible to remedy the situation. We need a paradigm shift. And this is the big question also, of course, at all the climate conferences now, how to do the big jump. But the problem is they're not even able to do small jumps, you know. So we're in a very tricky situation right now. I would also like to give this sentence, a crisis as a chance, you know. is a chance for us.
Yes, I take that up. It's a chance for us. And recently, when I was listening to economists, ecologists, they all say it needs a paradigm shift, and it's not a minute before high noon. It is practically high noon. We don't have any time anymore. The transition needs to be taking place as we talk. And yet, as an individual, of course, what can I do? Where do I start? And so many people are out there saying, well, I'm only me. Okay, I can, many people argue, I will buy a second car and an electric car, and I will no longer travel to the Maldives on vacation and have vacation at home. And I will eat meat only once a week, because some people believe that they need and want to eat meat. And then all the experts are saying, well, this is great. And yes, maybe as an individual is all you can do. But that's cosmetics. We need a much more profound and significant change, and we need it now. What am I saying to people who have that desperation when they face the need for change immediately, and yet their realm of influence being somewhat limited? Robert, I see you were nodding, and I know that you have been involved in the environmental questions also for a while.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's basically the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today. I started many years ago to work for the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs, in particular in the field of energy, renewable energy. And I saw we were very good at thinking of technical measures. But somehow I also saw that many solutions were basically available, but we couldn't make it happen, so to speak. And that's when I saw that it's about collaboration. It's a collective effort, I think, to make a change. But this collective effort starts with each individual. And I think the basic, that's why I like the personal approach so much, is to develop inner balance, to work on how you think and how you actually can be a critical thinker instead of repeating your thoughts. That's where we can shift out of the paradigms and the thought patterns, I think, that keep us locked in the situation we're in.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, it comes very much back to oneself and one's own inner belief system, one's own attitude, one's own action, of course. Yet it doesn't really resolve the urgency of all of this. And allow me to show you and to share something with you, which let me share, and then we can discuss.
Previously, when we face some problem, difficulties, then according to your own religion, faith, God, or Buddha, that's not sufficient. We must act according to the situation, not sufficient. God, Buddha saying that, not sufficient. We ourselves, as far as Buddhism is concerned, Buddha mentioned, you human being, you are your own master. Things depend on your thinking, your action. So sometimes we too much easy. We create a lot of problem. When we face that problem, we just say God. That's I think if Jesus Christ there, we pray to God, you, and who created problem? Not Jesus Christ, but you yourself. Now you have the responsibility. Buddha also similar sort of answer. So therefore, we ourselves, there are a lot of problems which due to our own behavior, then we have to think seriously how to resolve, how to reduce this problem.
I see you nodding, and of course, everybody would, with a fair mind, would nod to this. I am often frustrated, and I had an experience only today in, let's call it, spiritual circles, how people tend to withdraw into the light, into the meditation, into creating inner peace and harmony and empathy, and yet. I question, is that all we can do? I mean, Golo, help me. How can I live my life doing my daily spiritual practice and not practice escapism, but be a responsible person in the sense like the Dalai Lama just addressed it?
Well, of course, I always talk about a twofold approach. One thing is, in a practical way, we can do a lot of things. We can be vegetarian, or even vegan, plant-based diet, which has a massive impact on the climate. We can look into our travel pattern. We can look how we consume things, how we buy new things, how we buy secondhand, how we share things. There's a sharing economy out there also where people share and don't consume and buy things new. So there are many, many things, segregating plastic and in your waste collection and so on. So putting renewable energies on your rooftop, for example, here I'm in Frankfurt in the meditation center. We just put up a 10 kilowatt three-phase solar inverter and just get it commissioned next week by the government. And in our retreat place, we put up solar. So you can spread the good news about a green and sustainable lifestyle. That is one thing. You have to inform also people and give them the truth about the real situation, what is going on. The Potsdam Climate Institute is talking about the tipping points in climate. These are about 12 major systems in climate which are sort of controlling and interconnected. And out of these 12 systems, 8 have started to move. For example, it's the melting of the ice, it's the North Atlantic circulation, it's the monsoon systems, and so on. So out of 12 systems, 8 have gone to move. And we are in the midst of climate change already. Already experience massive impact in Germany. For example, the forest is dying. I just traveled last week into the north and 200 kilometers, and 20% of the forest is being cut right now, 20% of the total forest, because the little bug is inside and eating the bark. And they say maybe in 5 years, most of the needle trees in Germany disappear. So that's impact of climate change, because the precipitation in the last 10 years, the trend is quite negative. And so our environment reacts, and food security is at stake. So we should talk to the people also the truth, so they know what's going on. And then the other approach is the spiritual one. Number one, very, very important, we are beings of light. We are energetic beings and we live in this physical body, but we are immortal and we cannot be destroyed. We are just players here in this physical world, and we act, and we even get reincarnated, and we create karma through our action. So the art is now to deal with that karma, to transform it, and to connect to the divine and start shining again and become light. Because as Dalai Lama said, we are masters, we are creators, and we have incredible potential with us. We're sort of sleeping, through lot of time, a lot of advertisement. we have fallen into a sleep, in a slumber. And through many incarnations also, we've forgotten that we have this power, that we are divine beings of light, that we're immortal. And that actually this world is a playground for us to manifest and to be creative here. And that this was a Garden Eden. And here we come to a very interesting philosophy in India. In India, they have a cyclic idea of time. And we are right now in Kali Yuga, the age of Kali, where all the karma comes up, where everything is being settled, and where the truth is being also revealed. And after that comes again the Satyuga, which translated the age of truth. The Greek translated it into the Iron Age, which is now, and the Golden Age, which is supposed to come. And the Christians, they talk about the hell and the paradise. So in most of the old religions, we have this idea and this concept. And I find it very interesting and worthwhile to explore it, because such a small viewpoint, what's going on, can help you and empower you, and you can build up the inner resilience and strength, which is definitely required in the future to see all the things which are manifesting right now, and as per my understanding, will not just disappear. Corona will not just disappear, and climate change will not just disappear. We're trying to fix climate change since the last 20 years or 30 years. And unfortunately, the trend is still negative. So we're not up to the task. And so here is the new dimension of our existence that has to come into play. It means our spiritual side. And we have disconnected from our true self. And once we start reconnecting, then things will shift. And we can see right now in this process where people woke up. I was a couple of days ago, I was on a Monday morning. I was in Frankfurt downtown in the Corona lockdown, and I went in a church, in an old monastery where there are monks and there are candles. It's a small church, but old, 1,000 years old, in the heart of Frankfurt. One of the few places which didn't get bogged down. And guess what? 50 people were sitting there, and they were having the prayer to God. And I sat there for a moment and joined them, and I thought, see, in time of crisis, people come back to the roots. They try to connect to the divine. They try to go beyond consumerism and material possessions. And we can see this trend right now happening in front of our eyes. And let us see, let us observe. And as I said, the remedy is that you connect to your spiritual dimension, and you purify yourself, you connect to the divine, and you empower yourself. And then no fear, no worries, because this is the world drama which is unfolding in front of us, and we are players. Now comes dramatic, and right now we are seeing the dramatic part in that play.
Exactly. And I think that showing people in our talks who have the courage to pursue and to say what you just said, to speak their own truth, is making such a huge difference. And I personally believe that is one of the crucial things we can do every day, that we're taking a stance. The Corona crisis here in Switzerland, a few months ago, I took a walk down at the lake, and there were some, let's say, Corona pessimists or doubters around. And they were constantly going on about human rights and human rights and human rights. And I kept thinking, wait a minute, there is also something called a human responsibility, a human duty for each other. And that, at this point in time, I believe necessitates taking a stance and, like you said, Golo, speaking the truth, coming out and having the courage and show your true colors, at the risk that other people may look at you in a new light. I've had a monologue. Robert, I want you also to have a bit of time.
Yeah,
I saw you made a few notes.
Yeah, and I fully agree that it's time to speak our truth. And my truth is, I recognize a lot of what we've been sharing. And I have a slightly different take on it, in the sense that for me, the spiritual practice is crucial to develop and contribute to the quality of our actions. So yes, we can work together and discuss all kinds of technical solutions, but if we don't carry the basic respect for human beings in our interaction, all the technical solutions of the world won't get us there. So this is something that I think you can grow and develop, but it's a crucial thing for me in my own practice. And another thing is that I try to focus in the projects that we engage in to basically build projects of hope. So basically, I try to formulate and work with people defining what we are for, what we want to accomplish in the world. Maybe even going back to talking about the cathedrals in the past that we were building, to motivate people for something that is beyond their direct experience, but try to kind of bring in a longer term involvement and view, which I think it motivates me. I notice that it motivates people to kind of look over the things that are on our pathway right now, which doesn't mean neglecting them, but try to define roads through that and beyond that. And what I fully agree with is it is time to speak out and to make yourself heard. Yeah.
Excellent. I think we all have a slightly different angle to the same topic. Maybe I would describe mine as a more psychological one, if you want. But at the end, I think it boils down to the same thing. And what I deduce from both of you, what you're saying, that the spiritual practice, whatever the spiritual practice is, but there is an elementary key in the process, and it is one thing that we do as well as doing something else. Be that collaborations with people and organizations, be that environmental projects. I'm coming to an end. I'm happy with the way this conversation went. I hope you two gentlemen got the feel for each other, and you can contact each other also. There will be all the information where we can contact these people in the description of the YouTube video and also on our website. Golo, I know you want to run off and collect your visa. I wish you a good trip then.
I hope I get a proper one. It's not so easy right now, you know. Everything is quite complicated. A test before you fly, a test after you fly, quarantine, another test, register here, register there. So, but rightly, traveling has become more complicated, you know. It's also a menace to travel too much, you know. And I'm actually a bit enjoying to be stationary right now, you know.
Good for you. I think this will be one of the consequences of the corona crisis, that I think we all, maybe I hope, we all will actually travel less, or maybe travel more consciously. Robert, how do you feel with this conversation so far? What would you like to add still?
Yeah, I fully agree what you said. It's we all have maybe a slightly different approach, but the basic is combining spiritual practice with acting and actually moving out in the world is what I recognize, and I really I'm excited about that, because that's, I think, what we're here for.
Wonderful.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much. Please stay put. I want to say goodbye to my viewers. Thank you, Golo. Thank you, Robert. Bye-bye to the two of you.
Thank you very much.
Be back. So, my viewers, thank you very much. This was the latest issue of Art Talk. I hope you will subscribe. I hope to see you again, and I hope you enjoyed this and get some inspiration from it. Bye-bye for now.